what are we gonna talk about here? First, we need something for the first general rule, general welfare.
Public health.
All right, yeah. This is Congress, hearings, health. All right. Let's keep going. Are the conditions expressly stated, and if so, are they unambiguous? Is that true? What fact would we say?
It seemed expressly stated to me, they're like, if you do any of this, like, I don't have this thing in front of me, but
Yeah, they said if you fail to do this, we will withhold 8% of your Medicaid funding.
So, law clearly states 8% loss or failure to grant. All right, so that seems pretty expressly stated and seems unambiguous. Is it related to a federal interest in a national program or project?
The public health.
Yes, more than public health. What's our federal interest here? Do we have a federal program that does health care?
Okay.
Medicaid, right? Medicaid Fed program. Okay. All right. What about violating other constitutional provisions?
thought it could be coercive a little bit.
Okay, so here's where you would talk about, is it coercive or not, right? And how would you do that? Because this is about that 8%.
So I didn't know because like I remember the case that we read, you said that you're not sure what, the courts didn't really tell us what they think is too much. So it arguably, if that's stated, that's a big percentage of their Medicaid like income, that could have a big impact on them, so it could be coercive for them.
So you say that, right? What you know is that 5% was okay in Dole and 100% was not okay, right? And so you can say, it's not 100%. So you don't even have to reach a conclusion, right? So perhaps not coercive, but more than 5%, right?
We have to give you background for that? Like,
No. So you can say that, or you could say the percentage may be coercive if 8%, a large amount of state budget, right? Say any of these things. I just have a space for whether you say something. Make an argument, right? Draw on the facts, draw on what you know, and put it on paper so I can give you a check mark. Right? But when you don't give me anything under A, then I don't even have the opportunity to give you points. Okay? All right, so that's spending power. What's our counter argument? Go for the 10. And argue that it is coercive.
So I was gonna ask, so I included analysis of the coerciveness underneath the spending power itself, but I thought that was a counter argument as well. So is that part of the 10th Amendment argument as well? Is that where I put it?
Let me put it this way. So the framework is set up that you actually come to a conclusion on spending, and then the counter argument is the opposite of whatever you argue.
And then I just said it was coercive in my original analysis,
So here you would say it's not coercive.
but
right.
it violates the 10th Amendment.
So you could, here you're bringing, so because of your conclusion, you're saying it's coercive on this last prong because of the 10th Amendment. So here your counter argument would be, it's not coercive, there's 5 to 10, right? Counter, right? So what's the opposing argument? Right?
So for the first parts of the proposal, you would say the 10th Amendment for that, but then for the latter half, you would say it's not coercive.
Yep. So really, I mean, think of counter argument as the opposite of whatever conclusion you come to in the prior paragraph. Because again, I don't give you points to come out a certain way. What I want you to show me is that you can do or see both sides of the argument. That's the point of asking for the counter argument. Does that help?
Okay.
All right. So that's proposal number 3. Yay! We are done with Congress. All right, let's go to the president. All right, there are 2 issues with POTUS, right? The first is the exec order. To classify as Schedule 1, and 2 is the direction to the AG to prosecute. And for each of those things, you should be asking, can the president do that? Right? So the first one, how do you analyze whether the president has the order to classify as a Schedule 1? There's a bunch of different things in there. That's right. So we have to talk about what presidential power is, right? And if we're going to talk about presidential power, that means you want to do your Youngstown. That's, I guess. Right? With the corresponding congressional action. Can y'all see that?
Yeah.
Okay. But there's more in here than just the presidential power, because he's exercising it in a way that is by executive order, right? So we've had a couple of different cases that talk about this, but exec orders are okay, right? And we talked about them similar to agreements, but those are foreign. Or performing errors. Right? So basically, is it okay for the president to make some of these decisions unilaterally, solely within the executive branch? The answer is yes. We let the president do that through executive order and through executive agreements. Right? Give him more latitude to do it in agreements, but orders are okay. All right. So let's do our analysis then. What do we need in terms of Youngstown? Where are we on Youngstown and why? Where would you have us land? Twilight. Okay, so you would need to give me some facts about to make that argument. Who do I need to make some facts about?
Congress.
Congress. So you have to tell me something about Congress here, right? And so here, Congress, silent. If your conclusion is that they're in twilight, in order to get from your rule to your conclusion of twilight, you have to give me facts about Congress, right? So Congress is silent here. So what does that mean for his powers? Twilight, but what does twilight mean?
He can only rely on his independent powers.
Okay. and then whatever conclusion you wanna come to, and exec order. Okay. Alright, so that's your fact, that he used it by executive order. Alright, cause you've got a rule that says he can't. Okay. Second, direction to prosecute. Again, you're asking, can the president do that? Can the president direct someone to prosecute? Can you direct the AG?
I think so, yeah.
Yes. Why?
It's the executive and the
Okay, so here we're talking about agency power, right? All the agencies, or the majority of the agencies that we talked about, are under the executive branch. Okay, so we have our agency power. Okay. Any other rules that are relevant there? I think so. It's just agency power, and then what we're gonna do is there's gonna be some rules and the counter arguments. All right. So our application is,
So since he's head of the Attorney General, he has the authority to direct them to prosecute them?
yeah, the AG is the head of DOJ, is head of the exec branch, and what's the word? He answers to?
Reports?
He reports to, that's the word. He reports to POTUS. Okay. What's our counter argument here?
He's over.
Okay, so you could say non-delegation doctrine, and how would that work? First, think about what the non-delegation doctrine requires.
Oh,
Okay. Agency can only do if Congress has provided intelligible principles. What's your application of that, Leslie? Has Congress provided intelligible principles?
No.
You can say, Congress hasn't acted, so no principles. Or, you could say Congress gave intelligible principles when it passed the CSA, the Controlled Substances Act, to begin with, right? I don't really care which one you do. It's just the fact that you do one, okay? Or CSA has intelligible principles. Okay. So that's non-delegation. Are there other counter arguments?
Is it the executive order like I had for Youngstown that, but it was only for like foreign affairs, and like his executive order regarding like the Schedule I drug is not really maybe within the powers of what he can do executive orders for?
No, so executive orders are like the domestic version of executive agreements, right? Is how we've talked about them. You're onto something there that he's not really within his power though. Whose power is he using? Congress's power, right? And so here, this is a separation of powers argument, rule, Constitution, assign each branch specific powers. Congress makes law. POTUS enforces law. Judiciary judges law. Application. exec order is making law. Yes.
You may have already answered this, but do we need 2 counter arguments for one proposal?
No,
or
you
just-
only need one. I have one usually.
Okay.
I can't think of an exam where I have had multiple points for counter arguments. I do note when I'm writing the grading sheet, I will put the types of counter arguments I anticipate, but I don't limit it. So if you come up with a good one that I hadn't thought of, that's fine. Doesn't usually happen. And I usually only have points assigned for one counter argument per section. Right? So claims are more exhaustive. You're supposed to be like, all of these things, all of these powers could be true, and then pick a counter argument to argue on the other side. Okay? Other questions? No? Okay. Let's keep going. All right, so this is, that's the presidential one. And then all we have left
The state.
is the state law. All right. So what's the issue with the state law?
It does so Congress already passed a law banning
Mm-hmm.
the sale, and then North Carolina passes something letting them do just that.
That's right. And so you have a federal law and you have a state law. Ding, 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 ding.
Preemption.
Preemption. All right. All right, what's our rule for preemption?
Can you scroll it up a little bit for us?
Yes, oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. What's our rule for preemption?
So in state law and federal law, pass legislation on the same matter. The supremacy clause says that the federal law is supreme.
All right, so supremacy clause. State law. Other rules. It can be express or implied. Implied. Sorry. Express. Stated in text. Implied. Can be that objective. Conflict. All right. Now, again, we have some legal terms here, and you are showing your work. You are showing me how much you know, right? Not just vomiting law at me, but giving me the law that exists for the subjects I am trying to test you on, right? So I would expect that you not only list out federal objective, conflict, or field, but that you at least tell me you know what they are, okay? So here, you could say undermines goal. Here, you would say impossible to comply with both. And here, you would say pervasive, that okay. Does this need to be bigger for you? Yes. Okay. All right, so that's preemption. What would our analysis be here?